And I see people taking money out of glee every time I walk past it, and action this day. But no, more seriously, no, just as seriously and just as important is the investment into transforming the Elephant and Castle, which is something that I think we just need to spend a moment to dwell on. Remember, we've got the brand new Castle Leisure Centre open, absolutely top quality for our residents. Over 400,000 of our residents have already used it, and it's the largest number of free gym and swim sign-ups at the Elephant and Castle. We're investing £6 million into the 6 parks that bring the Elephant and Castle for existing residents, and there's a new park that have been delivered as part of the Lenley scheme on the former Haygate site. We've also invested £25 million as part of our Warm Dry Safe programme into 3,000 council properties at the Elephant and Castle. So when people say we've moved people out of the Elephant, that's simply not true. We've invested millions of pounds to bring those council homes at the Elephant and Castle up to good standard, and we're making great progress to replace 1,000 social rent homes that were on the old Haygate estate, which has all passed beyond its life, and we're now at nearly 800 social rent homes either built or on site or with planning permission in place coming forward, and we're pushing on to get more council homes delivered in the Elephant and Castle area to replace every single home that was on the Haygate estate. So great progress there, great progress in the public spaces, great improvements to transport, and the work will continue.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. There's so many things that I'm really proud of having delivered in the last 2 years and 4 years as a councillor to have worked on. But I think I just have to say free swim and gym. That was the crowning glory, let's be honest, of our last Labour manifesto, and what a brilliant political pledge it was. But beyond that, it's been a hugely successful, meaningful and popular public health policy. We've had over 76,000 residents sign up and register, but more importantly for me, digging down into the public health, more than half of them have been women, more than half of them, or close to half of them, have been from black and minority ethnic groups. We're now collecting really meaningful and rich data on the public health benefits. It's a universal scheme, but underneath that is something really, really meaningful about reducing health inequalities in our borough. So I think if there's one thing we can really shout from the rooftops about to people across this country and around the world, to be honest, it's that programme. So thank you to everybody who, from thinking of the idea to delivering it in the officer team. I know it's been difficult, but goodness me, has it been worth it?
Yeah, so a couple of things from me. First of all, I think we have to appreciate in terms of the amount of investment we put into our council home stock to make them more warm, dry and safe. And actually, if you look at where we started out in 2010, with just over half of our homes at a decent standard, which meant that nearly half of our residents were living in substandard properties, forced on by the previous administration. To get to 95%, it will be 96% by the end of this administration, so it is going up even more on that. It is absolutely phenomenal, and I think the work that Ian and Richard both did to help drive that as well needs to be recognised there as well. But it's not always the big things, is it? Sometimes it's the smaller things that actually make a big difference. And in times when we have a housing crisis and we are looking to build new homes, it's also making sure the homes we've got are for the people who need them. And so one of the things I'm really proud of is the fact that the illegal sublets and that of properties that we've recovered under that, and to have recovered 237 homes since 2016, which can be given to people on that waiting list, is a massive achievement. And sometimes it's those little things that make more difference, or just as much difference. They don't get the headlines, but they are just as important, and they are just as important for us to continue to do. So that's really what I want to say.
Thanks, that's a really good point, because that's the same as 237 new homes being built effectively if they're not in the system, providing homes for people on the waiting list. Okay, Barry.
Yeah, the headline figure of 11 more green flags awarded in this borough in the last 4 years is really brilliant. We worked really hard to do that. It means now we have 28 green flags. That's one of the most in the country. But beyond the headline figure, we have over 100 parks and green spaces in this borough that we manage and look after, develop, and love to hear anybody point out, say where there is a neglected park or green space in our borough. I assure everybody here there's very few. It's also the case that we, and Councillor Williams highlighted it, we're opened up 3 new parks. We are opening up one up the Elephant, we opened one up at Mayflower Park, and we also have big investment ready to open up a new developed green space at Greendale, and we're really looking forward to being able to deliver that. So we quietly got on with that, investing in health, well-being and amenity of our residents. At the same time, we quietly got on with investing in our leisure centres. And we've got a fantastic suite of leisure centres, which is envy of many other boroughs across London. I'd like to thank all the work that's gone in by our officers in our council to deliver first-class services and first-class facilities for the people of our borough. I'd also end by also mentioning all the great work that officers done right across this council, in this room, throughout the borough, but also the partnership working that we've done. And I'd like to highlight, I think, really important work, like how our CCTV team work very closely with the police to increase the number of arrests from CCTV. You know, we've got a great borough, great story to tell. At the same time, we also still need to make sure that we're making sure our people are safe. And the work that goes on throughout the council in terms of partnership working, I've seen over the years how so much that's improved. And we need to carry on doing that, because many of the problems need a multi-agency solution to them.
Thanks, Barry. Vicky.
Thank you. I wanted to start by paying tribute not just to the officers, but particularly to Fiona, who has kept us on the straight and narrow for many years. I'm not quite sure what we will do after May, but I do think it's really important that, as well as having really big ideas, as well as being really passionate about, you know, the great improvements that we want to see here in Southwark, that we are challenging ourselves to be held to account on that, and that we're not just doing it every 4 years, every 8 years. Actually, we're doing it on a far more regular basis, and it is Fiona who has, you know, really made sure that we would do that. So thank you. You will be very missed, certainly I think by all of us around the table. And I suppose to kind of lead on to, harking back to late 2009, sat in a community meeting with Fiona, many angry parents in that meeting, because when we took control of the council in 2010, we had nearly 500 children across Southwark who were not left with any of their choices of primary school places. That figure is much smaller now, and the great majority of families in this borough are getting one of their top 3 places in terms of their choices for primary school. And that is testament to the hard work of Fiona, I think to myself, to an able team of officers, both in schools, but also in regeneration, who have set about expanding and building new schools. And of course, those schools perform brilliantly. And you know, throughout this report, you can see there's an amazing story of you know, improvements across 10, 15 years of attainment and progress in Southwark. And I suppose finally, pick up a little bit on what Barry just said. You know, the lives of our young people shouldn't just be about what goes on in the classroom, goes on in schools, and actually our green spaces, and particularly our playgrounds, our adventure playgrounds, these sites that have seen a huge amount of investment and transformation over the last 4 to 8 years. So we should be rightly proud of those.
Thank you. Ian.
Last but not least, pity Stephen having to sit here and listen to all this. You've heard it all before, that's what I meant. Can I say that we've made significant investments in our highways over the last 4 years. We spent the best part of £35 million on improving the safety and especially investing in our cycling infrastructure. We've doubled the number of cycling journeys, and we also intend to increase that figure going forward. We've opened up Quiet Way 1, and the usage on that cycle usage has increased by over 80%. We'll be opening the Southwark Spine soon, and Quiet Way 7 and 14 are nearly complete. Because of that investment and because of the dedication and professionalism of our officers, we've won significant awards this year. We've won the London Transport Borough of the Year award, and we've just recently, last Friday, won awards for intelligent parking. Very good. Somebody will explain to me one day what that means. And secondly, we've also won the Young Parking Professional of the Year for Joanna Redshaw's work on CPZ, so we thank her for that. And the curbside strategy document, well, which hasn't been released yet, but anyway, has won the Best Local Policy Award at the Healthy Streets Award too. In terms of recycling, we continue to remain top of the league when it comes to inner London authorities at nearly 35% recycling record. And we now only send less than 1% of waste to landfill. We've also had the successful introduction of the timed bin collections for business waste in Walworth Road and Rye Lane, and we intend to extend that to Camberwell soon. We've set ourselves up as a commercial waste contractor. We're on top of fly tipping. Whenever it's reported, we take action immediately, and the cleanliness of our streets is maintained at a high standard, which is reflected in all our resident surveys. So we have a proud record, and a proud record which we will maintain going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. People would almost think there's an election with our, but look, I mean, I'm incredibly proud of what we've done as a council over the last 4 years, over the last 8 years, and actually, are we right, are we? We were just talking about the council. We all work for it. And I think it's really important to recognise that what this is about, the things that are recorded in the council plan that we've delivered on are about making people's lives better in our borough. You know, our council slogan is create a fairer future for all, and that is the business that we have been in over the last 8 years, and I hope that will continue long into the future. I do think this is a appropriate moment. I thanked Maisie earlier on, but just to also record thanks to Mark and obviously to Fiona as well. Fiona's been a cabinet member throughout the 8 years that we've been in administration, Mark for the last 4 years. And you know, it's presumptive of any of us to think we will be back here automatically. Absolutely not. But we know that for the 3 of you, you've chosen to step down at this forthcoming election. And you know, public service is tough and can be really difficult at times in terms of the issues that we have to deal with, in terms of the interactions that we have to have, some of the decisions that we have to take, which are not always popular. And I think you have been 3 public servants who have exemplified the very best of our borough, and I'm hugely grateful to all of you. I've said it before, places, so forgive me, but especially to Fiona, who has been there through the 8 years, and I think has really exemplified the best of the Southwark's cabinet over that period. So thank you. We'll miss you massively, and who knows, we might persuade you back in 2022. But okay, colleagues, right, we've almost been self-indulgent sometimes. So, Stephen, is there anything to add?
I fear I did, but it was just really to demonstrate, I think, and the discussion then demonstrates this is a genuine cross-council effort. Obviously, from our perspective, it has been incredible working with Councillor Colley as well in terms of the framework and building up to where it is today. But I think it's just generally saying it has been an incredible cross-council effort, and all officers, we obviously sit here presenting the report, but there's a lot of effort that goes in here from all departments. So that was all I was going to say.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, well, we're only asked to note this report, believe it or not. So, can we note it? Yes. Okay, well, we're going to have to get the skates on now for the rest of the agenda. I'm sure we will. Okay, colleagues, Gateway Zero Nursing Care Strategic Options Assessment, which starts on page 85. And this is going to be you.
This is me. It's probably worth starting yet another great success of this borough has been on the work that we've done in avoiding delayed discharges from hospital. We all know that the national issue has been about bed blocking, and so it's great that Southwark has been one of the best performing councils throughout the country in terms of avoiding delayed discharges from care. We're 4th best figure in London for those delayed discharges. And dare I say it, we are significantly better even than some other boroughs which share the same hospitals as Southwark in dealing with those discharges. It's the one that I think is 6th worst in London, but I'm not going to name them here because I think that'll be unfair. Obviously, that does actually create a significant pressure on nursing home places when we are being so good at moving people on from hospital. And we do know that in Southwark we have significant challenges about both the quality and the quantity of places in nursing homes. And members of Cabinet will recall back in December we set out a strategy about how we're going to improve that. In particular, I think how we're going to ensure that there were more high quality places within Southwark that we could move people to where they needed nursing home care. We're going to have reports, or reports will come to future Cabinet on the procurement to ensure we're getting best value that we can for those nursing home places. But before we do that, it's really important we look very carefully at what the options for procurement are, and this is what the paper here outlines. What should that procurement strategy be, so that we can take a clear view on that to enable officers to come to a future Cabinet to make recommendations about that procurement.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, any comments, queries on this, Steph?
Yeah, I've just got a couple actually. The first one's around Anmus Way. Now, I know we said we were looking to see whether any savings that are generated from that, whether SLAM would actually put that into transport costs for family members. Has that happened, or is it going to happen? Because obviously, I'm probably looking more from a ward perspective here, but it is in my ward, and it's really important that we make sure that people are able to visit their relatives and not be out of pocket doing so, given the move.
So my understanding is the consultation is still taking place, and it is a CCG decision because they are the commissioners of the service. But that we've been very clear as the council that our view is that we should be investing in ensuring that people can continue to visit their family members if they are relocated out of borough, and certainly that in the future the savings from the closure of Moss Way should be reinvested locally into whatever the new homes are that we open in the next 2 years.
Thanks. I wasn't aware of consultation because I think we were told to broadcast it about 3 years ago, and they never got back to us. So. And the only other question I've got is, throughout the report it's talking about where we place people in nursing homes, they have to be either good or outstanding. Given that Tower Bridge Nursing Home is now just had an inadequate rating, how does that affect things?
So Tower Bridges requires improvement.
I see, yeah.
Sorry, no, quite. I just wanted to clarify because we would never place in inadequate. We would take a case-by-case decision in terms of if we need to make placements in Tower Bridge because of the local connection for individuals. And we set out in the report how we would do that. We'd look at the individual circumstances and we would place in Tower Bridge. But otherwise, our default position has always been that if someone needs a nursing home, we prefer it to be in a good or outstanding.
Okay, thanks, Jeanette.
And I think it's also worth saying that we have officers working very closely with Tower Bridge to address those concerns as well, because I think that's really important that we're getting them to a place where, rather than there requires improvement, that they return to a rating good as quickly as is possible, and our officers are working very hard with Tower Bridge to ensure that's the case.
Okay, and I was just about to say, when I was at the Southwark Pensions Forum yesterday, very concerned about the closure of Moss Way. I mean, is it a done deal, do you know, as far as we can understand? Because their concern was that there will be no specialist dementia beds in Southwark if we lose Moss Way. Is that right?
That would be the case if they follow through following the consultation. I will go back to my CCG colleagues and ask them to confirm the timetable and ensure that all the members are aware of the timetable for the consultation.
Jeanette, could you also ask them to consult with all councillors? Because it's been absolute silence from them on it.
I'll do that, and I'll also share the paper that was taken to scrutiny on the matter. There's a briefing paper that went back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, colleagues, can we agree with 3 recommendations on page 85 as to our strategy? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We move to procurement strategy for care at home and community for children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities. Gateway 1 report. Vicky.
Thank you. So this is our Gateway 1 for procuring a new care at home and in the community for children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities. So at the moment, our current framework ran out to the end of 2016. We've continued ad hoc purchasing on that framework, but actually we've done a huge amount of work to now go back out and get the very best framework for these children and young people, very much kind of underpinned by a commitment to improve the outcomes for our children and young people, and to make sure that they and their families are right at the centre of you know, the kind of the care packages that they get. So this will be care at home for children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities, but we will also be, the CCG will be joining the framework, so those children with disabilities who have more complex care needs will also be, you know, their packages can also be bought from this framework as well. Now, the packages that we're currently purchasing ad hocly do comply with Unison's Ethical Care Charter, but one of the really, really good outcomes of this is that we will clearly have a very kind of clear framework which fulfills and complies with all elements of the Southwark Ethical Care Charter. So that's amazing. We have done it for adult care, and now we're making sure that every single one of our children and young people are getting exactly the same quality in terms of the care workers that are going out to support and look after them. So that is what we're trying to do today. Hopefully something to celebrate rather than to be a matter of controversy, but I don't know whether Jeanette or Carol Ann want to add to that at all.
Okay. Which is exactly what I would have said as the thought was in my head, which I hadn't realised until I introduced you. So that's fortunate. We think alike. Yeah. Jeanette.
I probably just want to emphasise that I think in terms of locally, we should be really proud of the fact that I don't think anywhere else, certainly in London, there is such a comprehensive application of the London Living Wage in terms of travel time and so on for a children's contract.
Okay, can we agree the four recommendations, page 104 to 105? Thank you, that's great. And we say with Councillor Victoria Mills, all of you need, who knows, to talk about Southwark school design guidelines.
Thank you. Councillor Williams might have some comments as well. But I mean, you heard me talking earlier about you know, the kind of, you know, what we've done in terms of creating school places. Actually, we do so much in terms of creating primary school and secondary school places and places in our special schools, that it's become very clear that we should be absolutely setting out what our design standards for those schools are. So that is new build schools, that will be expansions and remodelling of existing schools to take more children, but I think it's also as part of our regular maintenance of our school estate. We should have the highest ambitions. We should be making sure that the entire school community is part of kind of our ambitions, and that they're the particular kind of things that are unique about their school, there's a chance to celebrate that in the good design. We should make sure that our children have exceptional learning spaces both inside and out, and also that our teachers, you know, they want to come to school. They feel that there are no barriers to the quality of education that they're able to provide for Southwark young people. So this is very much about kind of like being absolutely clear what our expectations are of good school design. You know, I think there will be changes across the borough in the years to come, but I think we're particularly keen to make sure that as we see a programme of further expansions along the Old Kent Road and Canada Water, that we're absolutely clear what our expectations are of architects and you know, the services that we use, but also developers who might be involved in school build projects. But I don't know whether Rebecca or Steve want to add to that.
I would just like to say it's been an absolute privilege to work on the investment programme in our education estate. We've invested over £400 million in our education estate over the last few years, both secondary and primary, and the facilities we provided for our children are absolutely fantastic, and some of the recent completions are just breathtaking in terms of quality of spaces and finishes, provide a fantastic environment for our children to learn. However, I think we've got more to do, and I think this sets out, if you like, align them a stand to moving forward. Our population is growing. We will need more schools, particularly as Vicky said, down the Old Kent Road and at Canada Water. And this sort of sets that is like the benchmark for the quality of those education spaces moving forward. But I think we are leading the country really in terms of quality of our education space, and we should all be really proud of it.
I don't know if it's just me, worth adding that at this stage we're going out to consultation, so there is absolutely time for kind of changes. I hope those changes are to only make this better, not to water down the really high standards that we're putting out there. I know that Maisie wondered whether we could challenge ourselves to say more about kind of transport, and especially thinking about, I mean, we comment on kind of the health of our children, particularly air quality, if we're thinking about where some of these developments are going to be, but whether we can think even further beyond, I suppose, the school boundaries about how we're kind of designing good sites or picking good sites that will work well in terms of kind of transport and sustainable transport. But I don't know whether you want to add to that.
Yeah, that was it really, just kind of can we challenge ourselves to think way beyond the school gates in terms of how our families are going to be going into school, and when allocating sites or designing those travel plans, thinking wider than just the surrounding streets, because work that I've done so far with schools that are trying to put in air quality mitigation, you know, things after the fact, have struggled in particular with you close one street and then knock on effects on the streets, you know, further away. So I just think whilst we've got the opportunity to think forwards rather than having to do it retrospectively, why not, you know, be a bit bolder there, maybe. But.
Okay. Unless anyone else wants to say anything, we've got one recommendation there to agree on page 134 to adopt the Southwark School Design Guidelines. I didn't read it, I knew I should have done it.
So we think we're agreeing these drafts to go to consultation, and this will come back later on in 2018 for approval.
Fantastic. Yeah. Can we agree then? Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, we move on to a Gateway 1 procurement strategy approval, Applefield Estate and high investment needs Mayview House works. And Steph.
Thank you. So totally stripped back, and the plan is to actually re-provide some council homes with some private homes on top of it. It forms part of the Applefield Estate. So home at the bottom of it, the B Centre. So at the moment they've got a youth club in the base the side of Mayview House. They'll be moving into a lovely, wonderful, and they're really, really happy that planning's been granted for it, new premises, which frees up that site for us to provide new council homes. We're also looking to build on top of Danbury House and Factory Court, which are 2 blocks adjacent to Mayview House, and I know Mark's got a couple of reports coming about those and the air rights about both. Yeah, a bit later on. So what this report is saying is that we're now in a stage where we want to get cracking with actually bringing Mayview House back into use, and actually, you know, helping solve housing crisis by bringing some council homes back into use. And this is asking the Cabinet agree that we go out to procurement for EU procurement contract to actually get those go out to tender for those works on that. Some of the things worth pointing out though are that obviously post-Grenfell, if we're looking at building some of the homes for sale, it's around mortgageability of those. So we've done an independent report, we've had an independent review done on that around the mortgageability. And whilst at the moment it's fair to say that it could be hard to get mortgages on flats in tower blocks, that actually in a couple of years' time when the work's completed, the market could be different. If the market isn't different, it does give there is flexibility to actually put all of Mayview as council and actually provide the private some of the private flats in the bit where B Centre is now. So we've got some flexibility around that. And I think really the real good news is across the whole of the estate that actually we are looking at an increase in council homes. So we're looking at an increase of 60 council homes at the end of the period. And, you know, when you look at where we were in 2010, the only option being considered for Mayview was to sell it to a developer. So we are looking at, you know, 199 council homes across the whole estate.
Thanks, Steph. Good news, Mark.
Yeah, just to follow on from what Councillor Conn just said, in terms of fire safety and designs for the new homes and the build on top at Mayview and Mayview Block itself, it will be completely sprinklered. It's terracotta exterior material will be used in solid rock wool, if I remember correctly, and we've really pushed and probed on this, myself and Councillor Crane, to make sure that the designs coming forward are completely fire safe, are compliant with all the necessary requirements, and that the new homes that we're building and the homes that we're refurbishing meet all the highest possible standards to make sure that these homes are completely fire safe.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Otherwise, there are a few recommendations on page 150, which we're asked to agree. Dave, anything? You're happy?
Yeah, we're very happy.
Good. Okay, excellent. So, okay, can we agree the two recommendations which takes this further forward? Thank you. Agreed. Waiting patiently up. Friends from Leather Market. But Joseph Lancaster has said Deverell Street, SE1 grant of long lease and housing funding agreement. Councillor Steph Crane.
I think this is a joint report for me and Mark, so I'll start, then you can finish on it. So this is a really good, exciting report. I mean, 2 years ago, I came to Cabinet with a report asking for us to agree a business strategy for Leather Market CBS to build homes at council rent on the former Crickley Street garages, which is now known as Mark Lake House, which are almost ready, aren't they, to be let to people, and they are absolutely fantastic, of a fantastic standard. So Leather Market CBS have actually come back to us now saying that we've identified another site at Joseph Lancaster, the old Joseph Lancaster nursery site, and we'd like to do the same again. So this report is asking that we authorise officers to negotiate agreements with Leather Market CBS. The business plan is attached to that to say how we'll deliver, and they will deliver new homes at council rent on that. And I have to say, looking at the homes at Mark Lake Court, the standard of them is exemplary, it really is. So it's a really good example of working in partnership with local community-based organisations to actually help us to deliver new council homes. So, you know, I think the partnership we have with Leather Market CBS is a really positive one. The fact that they're looking for new sites and they want to help and support us around that is a really good thing to do as well. So actually this is really just saying, let's go ahead, let's deliver more of the same, please.
Thank you, Councillor Crane. Just to add to that, this is for the granting the long lease and the housing funding, which is £12 million towards our council house build programme. And as Councillor Crane was saying, we're delivering some of the new homes ourselves directly. We're buying some directly off developers as affordable housing, but we're also working with community-led organisations such as Leather Market CBS to get these homes built, designed and delivered, which is great to see, and affordable homes at Joseph Lancaster. So crack on. Recommendation 5 does note some further documentation information that we will need, and just to draw members' attention, because this has been discussed at length before, that the inclusion of clauses on letting new homes at council rents, and the council's normal policies in terms of London living wage for construction workers, also for apprenticeships, and also requirements in relation to blacklisting and companies that have blacklisted in the past and haven't taken part in the actions to own up, clean up and pay up, which is really important. That's something that was done at Mark Lake, I'm sure will be done at Joseph Lancaster, but just to note that. And also as well, just to note recommendation 7, where we're instructing officers to develop a policy that sets out the council's criteria for such agreements and requests for both land and funding in the future, whether that comes from Leather Market CBS. I'm sure there will be more great schemes coming through the pipeline, but also elsewhere in the borough as well, so that we can judge these. We've got a set transparent policy that we've agreed.
Anything to add, Michael or Stephen? I'm not sure if I formally welcomed you at the Cabinet meeting yet. Not yet. Michael Scorer, welcome, the Strategic Director of Housing Modernisation. It feels like, you know, you've been here for a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Very pleased to be here.
It's great to have you here. Absolutely great to have you here. Okay, anything either of you like to add, or are you happy with the introduction and the points made? Excellent. So we've got 7 pretty detailed recommendations here, which we're asked to agree on page 170 to 171. Can we agree those, please?
Agree.
There we are, and we wish our colleagues at Leather Market all the best for taking this forward. Thank you very much indeed for the work you're doing. It's great. Good partnership. Okay, there's lots more on the agenda. Gateway Zero, facilities management contract for the council's operational estate. Is this your last formal report?
No, I think I've got the purchase of the building.
Oh, right, okay, excellent. Yeah.
Spending some money.
Okay, good. Good way to do it.
Good way to do it. So this is the Gateway Zero for our facilities management contracts. So we're looking at our procurement strategy for facilities management for the authority. Our 2 main contracts are expiring in 2020, and so this is a good opportunity for us to look now at how those services will be provided in the future. The recommendation is that we divide things into 3 areas, that we bring a number of additional services back in-house, particularly pest control, cleaning at our main buildings, fixed security at those buildings, being those main ones, reception also at Queen's Road, which is currently outsourced. It's a good opportunity to bring some of those key services back in-house, and then to move to having 2 contracts, one for the soft services, which would be some of the other call-off security, cleaning on some of the outlying buildings, that type of service, and then the hard services, the repairs and maintenance to our facilities. So if Cabinet approve this today, we will move forward and there will be a Gateway 1 in due course.
Thanks, Fiona. Something we discussed previously when we looked at this proposal. Any further comments or queries that people would like to raise, or are you happy with the way in which this is being taken forward? Excellent. In which case we can simply move to agree the recommendation on page 187 if everyone is content. Thank you very much indeed. We've got then 2 Gateway 2 contract award approvals, door entry and warden call contract, and then a communal lighting electrical testing contracts, which both come within housing and with housing. So over to you, Steph.
Okay, so the first of the Gateway 2 contracts is around the door entry and warden call contract. As part of the work we're doing to bring the responsive repairs in-house, we've also gone out to contract for more specialised repairs around that one, both being the door entry and warden call contract. So we've gone through the procurement process, and we'd like to appoint Silk and Mackinnon Services Limited to actually carry out that responsive repairs on that. They're a local-based company. They're based in Camberwell, so it's an SME that's based in the borough. So I think it's a really good opportunity to give a local company a contract on that. Also, they actually manufacture the parts that are used in our door entries as well. So there is an economy there that they already have those parts to hand around that. So I think it's really good.
Comments on this one? Otherwise, very good. We can move to the recommendations and agree what's on page 230. Preemptive agreement there, please. Oh, no, it's up. Right. And we move then to Canada Water and Councillor Mark Williams.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, page 257 onwards of the main agenda. This report sets out how we will enter into a master development agreement with British Land to underpin the delivery of 3,000 new homes, 20,000 new jobs, and a huge amount of cultural and leisure space and huge improvements to the public realm at Canada Water. The report sets out a series of land transactions where we will take in total a 20% ownership of the 3 main sites at Canada Water, those being the shopping centre, the print works, and the Mast leisure centre site, which we currently have no ownership of, so we're increasing the council's land holdings at Canada Water. And also we will be buying in to maintain our 20% ownership across the whole development site, to include the dock offices and also the former Rotherhithe police station. And by having this equal land ownership across the piece, it means that the development that comes forward will be informed by good design principles based on the very, very extensive consultation that British Land have undertaken, rather than on who happens to own which piece of land today. So it's a really good partnership working between ourselves and British Land. The report sets out in some detail, and the Master Development Agreement sets out in some detail, that the Council will have 3 options as each plot comes forward for redevelopment. We will either be able to invest in to maintain our ownership at 20%, to either sell up our ownership of that particular plot, or to just leave our land value in there, and our ownership will be significantly diluted down, but retain an ownership there. The report also sets out how the first phase of the master plan to be submitted by British Land will be policy compliant, 35% affordable housing with 70% of social rents, 30% of the intermediate rents, and further that the council will have the first option to acquire the social rent units to be delivered as council homes on council rents on secure council tenancies. The report also notes the work on the social regeneration charter and instructs officers to complete this work on the 4 themes that have emerged from British Land's work, which picks up on Councillor City's and Councillor Anderson's early report, which we considered today. The report also sets out a capped amount for the brand new leisure centre for Canada Water to serve residents of both Bermondsey and Rotherhithe to replace 7 islands, and this will have the criteria that we set out in previous Cabinet and IGM reports, which include 2 pools, including 1 8-lane, 4-court sports hall, 150 station gym, 3 studios, a creche and wet and dry changing rooms, unless I'm mistaken. The report also sets out that British Land will be taking on the management and investment into Canada Water Plaza outside the library, and also Redbridge Square, which is the link between Canada Water and Green and Dock. This is a really significant report and will help deliver much needed homes, much needed new genuinely affordable homes, a huge number of jobs, huge number of training and apprenticeship opportunities for our residents. And I'd like to commend the huge amount of work that Steve and John, James and the rest of the team have undertaken over the last 3-4 years to get this report over the line, and also for the spirit of partnership that British Land have entered into these discussions. And the final thing, Chair, is just to note that this report is completely in alignment with the heads of terms which we agreed at September's Cabinet.
Thank you, Mark. Great, this is good news. This is great progress made on this very important bit of regeneration in this part of the borough. Hats off to the team, as ever, for all the work that you've done. Some tough negotiations, some tough issues to be resolved, thanks to our partners, British Land, as well, for the work that they have put in to get us to this stage at this point. Yeah.
I just want to say, I think this is probably the last big regen report I'll be involved with. And actually, when I joined the council in 2002, I lived in Canada Water, and we were talking about the regeneration too, and it's great to see us making progress, but it reminds me that when you're in regeneration, it's about the long haul, and these things take a lot of time. I love being cabinet member for regeneration. I love working with Steve and John and everyone else in that team. And I look forward to the day when I go back to Canada Water and revisit it with the pride that I took last summer going to Eltham Castle, using the Castle Leisure Centre that we had delivered, free swim and gym to go to the St Mary Churchyard Green Flag Park and the fountains there. And I've no doubt at all that in a couple of years' time I'll be going back to Canada Water and looking with great pride at what Southwark Council has achieved with our partners there at Canada Water too.
Thank you. Fiona. Steph.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you. I mean, it has taken time, but we can finally see something emerging from it. And I do have, I live in Canada Water and I represent the ward there. So for me, this is really, quite exciting to see what is going to be happening here. I suppose one of the things I just want to tease out from this is around the affordable housing side of things. And I know on phase 1 it's going to be the 35% and the 70-30 split, but actually we're going to take it through a planning process for future sites. I just want reassurances that won't diminish the amount of social housing, that it will always be whatever's in line with policy at that time, that we won't get to a situation where we're seeing less affordable, social housing and affordable housing.
Well, I think what we've lined out there is that it's going to be at least a 15-year development programme. And I think we all know that over that period of time, policy, the commercial realities, and also the availability of grant are going to change significantly. So that's why we're suggesting in this report that the way we handle affordable housing will be to review it phase by phase and to achieve a policy-compliant outcome through that route.
Okay, and I know that Maisie, you'd like to highlight the social regeneration themes in the report. Or is it going to be Mark?
Yeah, I just wanted to draw members' attention to the 5960. And there's been a lot of work that's gone on with officers and with British Land, and it's really exciting and interesting. And I think the next stage is to really build a structure that lasts long beyond any of us in this room, because as you said, it's a 15-year process, so it's about making sure that whoever takes on these briefs, or whoever's at the officer team, or whoever's at British Land, is kind of held to these set of undertakings that we do now. So thank you to everybody that's done it, and it's our first kind of foray into a real tangible social regeneration project within the actual living development site. So well done, and I look forward to seeing the outcomes of it myself as a Southwark resident.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd first mention a couple of things because there's so much in this report. First is that there's many matters, for example, car parking, transport impacts that have to be considered when the planning application comes in through the statutory planning process. But also just to note that we are endorsing the master plan which British Land have consulted on heavily, and as part of that, under recommendation 7, we're confirming plot A2 for the site for the new leisure centre. This is as requested by the Overview and Scrutiny Committee when this was called in a couple of years ago, that rather than this being done for an IDM on its own, that this is considered as part of the round, as part of the wider master plan, which is why it's in here, and that there will be an impact on the properties backing onto that, and all those impacts will be considered through the statutory planning process.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, well, as you pointed out, 9 reference. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, again, I'm really proud of this report. I've been working on Canada Water for over 20 years. I started working on the de-designation of the LDDC and the transfer of the assets we're now talking about today, including the shopping centre and the printworks. And to see the proposals come forward by British Land are just incredibly exciting and phenomenal. This sets out a basic framework for our working relationship for the next 15 years and beyond. It will deliver over £5 billion of inward investment into Canada Water, which is just incredible, really. When we started talking about Canada Water over 20 years ago, nobody believed it could be part of central London, or it was the right location for this quality of development and the quality of the social infrastructure, which will come alongside that development for the benefit of all those residents. So I think it's a really innovative approach as well. Our interests are aligned with British Land. We're working side by side with them. If they're a success, we're a success, and I'm sure it will be a success for everybody and for the residents.
Thanks, Steve. And I think it's worth noting, I mean, this is the second iteration, really, isn't it, down there? Because if you go back in time and watch that brilliant film on YouTube of Southwark Council, presented by Brian Redhead, talking to the chair of planning at the time and the leader of the council at the time about their plans for a conference centre, international conference centre and hotel on the peninsula, and the model, which didn't come into being, but the Surrey Quay Shopping Centre did. Yes. So, yeah, we don't want it to be third time lucky, but second time lucky, and I'm confident that this will be a scheme which will last for many years. So, yeah, absolutely right, Steve. And realise you went back such as the history of. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible. Okay, right. Well, there are still 9 recommendations for us to agree on page 258, colleagues. Can we agree those recommendations? Agreed. Agreed. Excellent. Okay, now we've got a whole series of appropriation reports, 24 to 28. So I'm assuming we can take this fairly swiftly as we go through. Page 291, air rights.